Hello everyone, my name is KashMuney, that's Cash with a K, Money with a U, and today I'm building hot air balloons in a creative world. I don't know how to build hot air balloons, but we're gonna try. So what is the plan? First, we're gonna build the shape of the balloon, then we're gonna texture it, and finally do all the extra details like the basket and stuff. Step 1. Balloon shape. So the technique I'm going to use to build the balloon is one that I like to use to build anything that's circular in shape. It starts with creating the side profile of the shape, uh, duplicating that in the four directions, and then using circles to connect them. All right, so I'm just going to start making the side profile of the balloon and we'll go from there. And to start, I'm just, outlining the biggest dimensions of the balloon. There's a top, there's a bottom. The side juts out about 2/3 of the way up, so I'm just trying to figure out how big I want that to look. All right, and once I get my shape figured out, I'm just gonna connect the pieces. Just kind of mess with it until I get something I like. All right, and I like something like this, so we'll try the bottom half. The bottom half curves a little bit at the top, but then it's pretty much a straight line down to the bottom. All right, and we get a shape like this. After a little bit of adjusting, I'm liking this a lot more. So next, I'm going to replicate this in the four directions, and then we'll get started on filling in the shape. Oh, and if you want some fun facts about hot air balloons, they're usually flown in the mornings or late afternoons when the winds are most calm. You wouldn't want to get blown away in a hot air balloon. That might not be too good. They usually fly for about 1 to 2 hours. They normally fly at about 10 miles an hour, although from what I saw, skilled hot air balloonists are able to get speeds up to 60 miles an hour. All right, and now we have the four side profiles in place. So next I'm going to start working on making those circles on each layer, and then we'll connect them up and hopefully get a good hot air balloon shape. And for this step, I find circle generators really helpful. It's tough to make, perfect circles on the fly, so I'll be using some of those. And if you want to use them too, just look up Minecraft Circle Guide and figure out the diameter of the circle you want to make and build it using the chart. So for example, this is a 7 diameter circle, so this one's pretty simple. Just this sort of shape. And we're just going to fill it in because it's the top layer. Now only 25 more layers to go, something like that. Here we go. All right, so once we have the circles in place, you might notice a couple things. First, there's holes inside of the balloon. You can just fill in these holes, that's pretty simple. And then also, this shape doesn't look very much like a balloon. Like the general structure's there, but balloons are smooth and this is very blocky. So we'll adjust that once we get these holes filled in. Now that the holes are filled, we need to address the blockiness. The best way to do this is just, you know, identify a portion you want to focus on. For example, right here might be a good idea. And just smooth it out. Add blocks nearby. I mean, shave off blocks. You might get holes, just fill those in. Not too big of a deal. And like I said, it's an art, not a science. There's no right way to do this, and you can't really mess up too badly. Just go based on feel. And sometimes it can be hard to keep the symmetry of the balloon. All what I can say to that is try your best. I mean, nobody's going to see it from all four angles, and I'm sure they're not going to notice any huge mistakes. I'm probably going to make some here, but I'm sure you won't be able to notice them. All right, now this part feels very not so good. So we're just going to screw around a bit, try and make it work, shave off some blocks here and there. Just get it to something that we like. All right, so this is looking a bit better. Now when I look at this, I think this area feels a bit weird, so we're going to focus on that next. And if this technique seems overwhelming or impossible to do in survival even, keep an eye out for my upcoming survival series. I plan on using this technique for my main build. So I'm liking the shape of the top a lot now, but now we get to focus on the bottom. We kind of have that staircase effect right here. So we're just going to go in and break it up, adding blocks to the side, taking some blocks from the middle, kind of have a narrowing down to the base. We have that a little bit, but maybe we can emphasize that a bit more. Not meant to have any specified shape, just meant to look like fabric. And if it helps, just zoom out and like look at the curve of the balloon. Like, do you like the shape? I'm pretty happy with it. All right, that's step one done, getting the shape of the balloon.
Step 2. Balloon color.
So now that we have the structure of the balloon built, now we get to do the colors and the gradients that we were thinking about. For this balloon, we're going to do classic hot air balloon colors, white and red, and we'll see how that goes. So to start off, I'm just going to divide the balloon in strips of red and white, just using concrete, and then from there we'll add a gradient and make it look good. And for this, I'm just making some stripes of red and white, and then I'm going to extend these to the bottom and top. And here we have the first line. As you can see, it's not perfect, but it starts white at the middle, narrows to the top, it does the same thing on the bottom. And it doesn't have to be perfect, we're just trying to get a general shape going. I finally have the entire balloon done. It's sectioned into white and red, and now it's ready to add the gradients. Alright, so with the colors done, we can look to the gradients. This is a gradient I'm planning to use. We have some reds here and some whites here. It's kind of dark on the bottom, so I'm going to try and incorporate some lights, maybe use some trap doors to hide them, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. Alright, so I'm just going to start with the red, placing the bottom blocks with this mangrove. What are these? Stripped mangrove wood. It's a nice dark red color. And where it seems fit, we're just gonna add these frog lights and cover them up with trapdoors. Just add some light to the bottom so it's not so dark. Alright, and here's our first transition. The mangrove wood up into the red concrete. And here we are starting on the red wool. And then here's the concrete up into the red wool. Finally, we'll do the wool into the terracotta. I like the terracotta because it's very bright, has some white, a little bit of texture to it, so really good as like a highlight at the top. And there's the first portion. Now just gotta do that a lot more times to the rest of the red stripes. So that's the red gradient done. As you can see, we have the mangrove to concrete to wool to the glazed terracotta. And it's a nice transition. It might look a bit weird right now, but that's just because we don't have the white strips in. So yeah, let's get started on those. So now we can move on to the white gradient. Earlier, I said we were going to do a gradient like this with calcite, concrete, wool, and then quartz. But I decided to change my mind, and now we are doing diorite, calcite, wool, and snow. It's a bit more of a dark to light gradient. I think it'll look better up here. Here's what the white gradient looks like. Not a big fan of it. I don't like this, how textured the diorite is and how dark it looks. So I'm gonna mess around and try and find another gradient. After messing around a bit, I decided to go for a mushroom stem to smooth quartz to wool to snow block. It's much more subtle. I mean, this is still a bit strong, but it doesn't have that texture issue that this had. Here it looked like you're changing colors. This one it looks more like you're going from, like a part of the balloon that's more in shade to a part that's directly in the sun. And I think that looks a lot better. I'll replicate this for the rest of the balloon and we'll go from there. Gradients may seem like a lot of work for not a lot of payoff, but really they transform a build. If you look over here, like you have the white here, it just looks flat and dull. Whereas this red it looks dynamic and looks more realistic than this part does. So it's a lot of work and it can be frustrating to come up with the right gradient, but look up gradients online. Like I said, it's more of an art than a science, so you really can't go wrong. Just like that, the white gradient's done. I feel kind of fried from doing gradients, but it looks great. Although looking at this, these lights right here, I like them, but they need to fit in a bit more. I kind of placed them at two levels, one right here and one up here, and that just doesn't look too great. I'm gonna come back again and intersperse these through the bottom layers so it looks a bit more natural. I'm liking that a lot more. So that's step 2 done. On to step 3 with the fun little bips and bops.
Step 3. Extra parts.
All right, for this step, we're going to do a wicker basket, the wires connecting the basket to the balloon, maybe like the heating elements. We'll probably add like a rope connecting the basket to the ground. I think that's about it. And our first hot air balloon should be done. For the basket, we're just gonna screw around a bit. You know, we want the air element about right here. Maybe like some sort of fire that fills the balloon and keeps it afloat. Then a couple blocks down, we're gonna have the basket, which I think we're gonna make out of trapdoors. I think that would be best. So have some spruce maybe for the bottom. We could cross-hatch them so we get a nice design on the bottom. And then just some oak trapdoors on the side. Oops. Like this. This is a good spot for a campfire, so we're just gonna find a campfire. Stick it right here. So to connect the basket to the balloon, we're gonna start by putting some fences in the side, just as a way for the balloon to connect to the heating elements. And we'll just do this. We're gonna connect these pillars, make it look like a basket that can be, you know, taken off the balloon or attached in case it breaks. And then we're just gonna surround this campfire with some iron fences. Close it to make sure it's contained. And then finally, we could just add some off branches and some chains to connect it to the balloon. And we get something that looks like that. I'm pretty happy with it. So then finally, we're gonna connect the balloon to the ground. And I think it's a bit high to do that, so we're gonna lower that real quick. All right, that took way too long to figure out how to lower this, but here we are. So now we're just going to make a quick tether to the ground. Not being terribly fancy, just in a nice shape that comes down to the ground. I'm just kind of screwing around a bit. Trying to make a nice sloping line down to the ground, look like the rope's under some weight and trying to hold the balloon in place. And we'll just put like a piece of stone or something underneath, and hopefully it looks good. And I think we have the first hot air balloon. Now I say first because I'm going to make a couple copies of this. We're going to have different color balloons in the air, so it's more of a hot air balloon festival.
Step 4. More balloons. Alright, so to make more balloons first, we're going to clone this balloon and make a couple copies in the air. Then we're going to focus on each of those balloons, change the colors, change the style, maybe add some details and stuff. And do that a couple times, and before you know it, we'll have a hot air balloon festival. Here we go. There's the first. We just gotta get rid of this extra piece of rope, and then we're good. There's number 2. Perfect. There's number 3. For the second balloon, which is this one right here, we're gonna make it rainbow. Rainbow hot air balloons are pretty iconic, so I felt it was important to have in the build. We're gonna be using this color palette. As you can see, there's a lot of concrete, wool, terracotta, and some other miscellaneous blocks, including a couple glazed terracottas. As you may notice, for some colors, there's only 3 blocks that we're going to use. This should be fine. We'll see how it looks, but this hot air balloon will be so far up that you won't be able to really tell. All right, and that's it for the rainbow balloon. I absolutely love it. I think it looks amazing. I love how strong the dark to light gradient goes. It's not too strong. It still looks like it's all the same color, but it really looks like there's down here's kind of in shadow and here's in the direct sunlight. All right, only two, maybe three more hot air balloons to go. And on a side note, when you're inside the balloon, it looks so cool looking up. If we head up here, you just have all these colors and blocks, and it looks so cool. And I love the leaves right here, how they let in a little bit of light. Yeah, pretty cool. For the next balloon, we're going to do a old-fashioned circus-inspired balloon. So for that, we're going to change this red to a cyan. I'm planning to use the cyan blocks from the rainbow balloon for this. We're gonna like add a little band around the middle and then connect that band to the basket, and hopefully it looks pretty circusy. I love the colors of this balloon. I think the cyan goes so well with the white, and it's a nice change from the bright red of the other balloons. I was originally going to get rid of these little lights on the bottom of the balloon, but I thought I'd try the warp trap doors, and I think they look really good. They add a nice pop of light to the bottom of the balloon, so it's a nice transition from the dark cyan to the light cyan and really brings the balloon together. Yeah, so with the base done, I think we can get started on the fun little details. Alright, so for this collar, I'm just going to do it in a pretty boring brown around the entire balloon, and then we're just going to add details and little shiny pieces and really bring it to life. So yeah, we'll see how that looks. Trust the process. Trust the process. To tie this brown band into the rest of the balloon, we're going to add these little ropes right here, just connecting the basket to the band. All right, and here's the balloon with all the ropes attached. So we have a total of 8 ropes going from the basket up to the band at the top. And from here, I think we're going to decorate this band in some circusy colors, maybe some silver, maybe some red. We could throw in some gold. And I think it'd be cool to hang something from these ropes, maybe lanterns or banners or just add something cool to it. So we're gonna try that out. So after doing a bit of messing around, here's where I am at the decoration of the band. I don't want to say how long it took me to figure out how to place the glazed terracotta, but I'm liking it so far. Here's the finished balloon. I am loving it. I love this, how plain the brown mushroom background is and how it lets everything else stand out. I mean, we have this little design right here. It's almost like the circus logo or something. I like this dark oak border around the top. It really separates this brown band from the rest of the balloon and makes it feel like its own thing. I like this little red band with the bamboo buttons. I think it looks like a bit of gold and adds a nice bit of flair to it. And I love the little lanterns on the ropes. It's a small detail, but it just makes it look more circusy and more magical, and I absolutely love this. All right, that's 3 down and on to the next one. All right, so for this next balloon, I want to do a dog. I want to do a dog's face for this balloon, maybe have the eyes here, the mouth here, some little ears. So first I'm going to change the red and white to more of a fur kind of color or fur kind of gradient, and we'll go from there. Here's the balloon after changing all the colors. Now we have to shape the dog's face, and we'll go from there. I'm going to keep it pretty simple and cartoonish. I think really just make the snout, add some eyes, and add some ears, and hopefully that looks good enough. Okay, so this is the first draft of the balloon. I absolutely love it. I think he is so cute. I still need to go back and texture him and add in the gradients, add the darker blocks where there's going to be less light and lighter blocks where there's going to be more light. But I think he is so cute and I am so happy with him. And here the dog is after I've done a little bit of adjustment. I decided to tone back the shading. The dog is supposed to be this nice tan color, and adding in too much of the darker wood or the sandstone just kind of ruins that effect. But I also changed the eyes to make them a bit more lively, and all things considered, I am really happy with it. I think it really adds to the rest of the balloons. It breaks away from the standard balloon shape, and I'm really happy with it. So let's get started on this last balloon and go from there. And this is where the last balloon's gonna go. I wanted to have this one on the ground to show maybe how people would get in the balloon and really just tie the scene together. So we're just gonna add some details and hopefully it'll look good. So we're gonna start by just tying the balloon to the ground with some fences. Keep it pretty simple, just like that. And then we're gonna add a way for people to get up. Can add a little fence here and maybe some stairs. So they can walk up into here. And then we can maybe add a nice path through this area with some other landing sites. So it looks like these balloons, took off from the ground and now they're up here. Here's this pathway I've been working on. I've mixed in a variety of blocks to make it look like it's well used and well traveled. And at the hot air balloon send-off spots, I've been adding some extra blocks to make it look like, this is a place people frequently take off, and because of that, it's been worn down a lot as people set up their hot air balloons and all that. So I'm going to continue this around the entire hot air balloon area, and don't worry, I didn't forget about this hot air balloon. We will do this last. And here's the finished path. I love it. I think it adds a nice detail. Even though you're mainly going to be looking up, it's good to look down and see, oh, this is where the balloons take off. That makes sense. And it really makes this feel like a balloon festival more than just some hot air balloons in the air. So let's work on finishing this last balloon and we'll be done. I'm going to keep this last balloon pretty simple, probably just change the colors, maybe add a few small details, but it shouldn't be too crazy like the dog or the circus balloon. Alright, so here's the last balloon for this one. I kind of wanted to go ombre from a light blue up to a cyan, and I'm pretty happy with it. If you haven't already, please go check out the showcase video for this build. In that, I give a more cinematic fly-through and really show off these builds and what they are. And finally, thank you so much for watching. It has been such a pleasure making this build, and I'm so glad I'm able to share it with you. I've learned a lot from this process, and I've really enjoyed it. If you like this style of video, please let me know down in the comments, and I will be happy to make more of them. I really enjoyed this, so I'd love to hear your feedback. Thank you so much, and have a great day!